The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. On this episode of Bizarre Murders,
What was that?
when a loving husband barely escapes an attack on his life, the authorities think it was a random incident.
Oh, Lord.
But the husband is convinced he's a man marked for death.
You're a dead man, Gary.
Is he on a downward spiral of paranoid delusion?
My days are numbered.
Or is there really a killer lurking around the corner, waiting to finish the job?
It's the devil. The devil's coming for poor old Gary.
Gary and Leonie are high school sweethearts, looking forward to celebrating their 8th wedding anniversary.
Something sure smells lovely.
I've been baking cupcakes.
It's a beautiful morning, honey. Did you make us reservations at the bowling alley?
Sure did. I got us a surprise for dinner, too. We're all set.
That's my gal.
But, Gary, I was thinking, I could really use a new dress for dinner.
Well, I suppose it is our anniversary.
Thank you, sweetie. Hands off. Those are for the church outreach.
All right, all right.
Gary runs a small construction company, while Leonie is a dedicated homemaker with a passion for baking.
I'll see you later.
They're active members of the community, upright folks who never miss Sunday service and steer clear of vices like alcohol and gambling. Gary coaches youth football on weekends, while Leonie spends her spare time helping out the less fortunate.
Hey! Hey, you! Get back here, you rascal! That does it. This time I'm calling the sheriff. That's the 4th time this month, Bud. There's a pervert on the loose.
Now, don't fret, Leonie. We'll catch the panty phantom.
The what? Really, Bud?
We've had our crack surveillance unit on a suspect for a while now. Just kidding. But I'm pretty sure I know who it is. I just got to get him red-handed. You're not the only one in this town who's had some undergarments go missing.
Well, I'm sure you'll get your man, Bud.
Well, you can count on it.
Sheriff Arnold's is your typical small-town lawman, the kind of guy who'd rustle up a posse to catch a fugitive and rescue your cat from a tree the same day. Sure, his department's small, but what he lacks in resources, he makes up for with the personal touch. In his town, he is the law, and everyone knows it. And aside from the odd panty thief, almost everyone respects the law as he lays it down. But no town is 100% free from serious crime, and Arnold's town is no different.
Gary and Leonie return from their anniversary night out in high spirits.
3 doubles and a turkey. It doesn't get much better than that.
Don't let it get to your head, dear.
What was that? Wait here, honey.
But their celebration suddenly becomes a nightmare when they find a stranger in their house.
Gary! Are you all right? Help! Somebody help me! It's Leonie Culpepper. Someone just tried to kill Gary at her house. Get the sheriff.
Talk about a close call. I mean, finding some guy armed with a gun in your house usually doesn't end well. And despite what you might see on TV, guns actually don't jam all that often. So Gary's a very lucky man.
Now, What in the Sam Hill happened?
Gary and Leone tell Sheriff Arnold's they must have interrupted a burglary and that a man in a mask was going to shoot them.
He looked like a heathen devil, but the Lord intervened and jammed up that gun of his.
Amen, honey. Jesus had our backs tonight.
Whoever it was looks like he helped himself to a snack. Anything else missing?
Why, he took my mother's gold rim coffee service. I mean, is nothing sacred?
That it?
Well, Bud, some of the underwear is missing from my laundry line.
What? You gotta be kidding me. Well, unless panty steal is getting contagious around here, looks like someone just crossed the line into felony territory.
You said the other day you knew that was, right?
I said I was pretty sure. But I'm gonna haul his ass in and make sure.
Now, normally you'd need something more than the say-so of a witness to arrest somebody, say, probable cause or a warrant from a judge. But sheriffs have a lot of leeway when it comes to how they enforce the law, especially in small towns like this. And no one's gonna argue when the boss wants to sit you down for a chinwag.
See, Mr. Sheriff, I've tried to stop. I have. You see, I just don't know, Sheriff. You know, I see them panties and I just gotta take them, you know? Just gotta take them.
It doesn't take long for Sheriff Arnold's suspect to cave.
Okay, now. That's a good start. Listen up. Stealing ladies' panties, undergarments, excuse me. That's one thing. But breaking and entering, assault with a deadly weapon, maybe attempted murder, that's a whole different ballgame, son.
I'm sorry, sir. Sir, I don't know what you're talking about.
But the thief says he was working a double shift at a local hog processing plant when Gary was attacked. And a quick call to the factory manager confirms the suspect's alibi.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, bye now. That's mighty strange. How many panty snatchers can there be in one town? Well, we ain't done here yet. Maybe a couple of nights in my guest suite will cure you of that thieving habit of yours. Stand up.
Our sheriff thought he'd close this case faster than a scalded cat, as they say in Texas. But things ain't ever that simple, and now he's got some serious worry. 'Cause in a small town like this, word gets around. Not only is there a gunman at large, but everybody knows it, and they're looking to Arnold's to catch him. It's all part of being the biggest lawman in town.
In the days following the attack, Gary becomes increasingly afraid that his attacker will return, so he takes steps to protect himself.
Gary, that you? I got you some medication to help you sleep, dear. Gary, what's that?
Can't rely on Jesus alone, sweetie. So I got this here peacemaker. Got to look out for my own self.
Well, just don't bring it to the dinner table. It makes me nervous. Here, take one of these.
You can't blame a guy in this situation for arming up. Hell, I would. A man's house is his castle, after all, and for all Gary knows, the masked marauder could be fixing to come back and get rid of the witnesses. But it's a fine line between being on high alert and seeing enemies everywhere.
Unable to shake the fear that the man in the mask will come back, Gary's nerves start to unravel.
Dear Lord, please help the sheriff catch that man. Who's there? I got a gun. I'll shoot if I have to. Oh, Lord.
As the days go by with no news from Sheriff Arnold's, Gary's fear starts to get the better of him. He barricades himself at home, hopefully safe from the outside world.
Hello?
You're a dead man, Gary. I'm coming for you. Your days are numbered. Your soul is mine. Look outside.
Sweet Jesus. It's the devil. The devil's coming for poor old Gary. Oh, Lord. Satan's got my number. Oh, Lord.
Yep, it sure looks like someone's out to get Gary, or at least mess with his head big time. From where I'm standing, this looks like a classic stalker situation. Now, a lot of stalkers don't actually want to kill their victims. I mean, then all the fun would be over, right? But as far as Gary's concerned, his days really are numbered, and that'll put the scare into anybody.
Now he thinks the devil himself is on his tail, bud. It's just too much to bear.
As her husband falls apart, Leonie seeks consolation and answers from Sheriff Arnold's.
I'm telling you, Leonie, it's probably just a drifter. Chances are he skipped town. He's long gone. I've seen it before.
Try telling Gary that.
Has he been to a head shrinker yet?
He won't leave the house. But what if Gary's right? I mean, the mask, the bullets, he keeps getting those calls.
To my mind, it's probably just kids. Saw you guys on the news, getting some cheap thrills out of scaring y'all.
I'm more scared of Gary than some bunch of kids. He's deranged, but he's not himself. Sheriff, he bought a gun and he's taken to the bottle.
Well, nothing wrong with a little nip now and again. But guns and whiskey's not a good combination. You're right about that. So, I'd hide his whiskey and find a shrink that does house calls, or call in the pastor, or both.
Even if it is all a bad joke, Arnold's in a tricky predicament because these cases are notoriously hard to investigate. Whoever's tormenting poor Gary is operating at a distance, and with no leads on who attacked him, Arnold's basically investigating a case of prank calls and Nicky Nine Doors. But that assault caused a crack in Gary's mind, and I'd say he's in real danger of breaking down completely. Arnold's might be the law around here, but he's no psychiatrist. There's not a whole hell of a lot he can do.
My days are numbered.
But I don't know what to do. He's getting worse. I'm afraid he'll do something to me.
Now, why don't you come on down to the office? I can send a patrol car around.
Escape? My days are numbered. Hey, who are you talking to?
Leonie, what's going on?
Is it him?
No, honey. Remember what the pastor told you. Keep the Lord close to your heart. Yes. Give me the gun. Okay.
No, I need that. Give it back. I need it. I need that.
Step away.
I need that. Give me that.
Oh, you're hurting me. Ah!
Criminy!
When Sheriff Arnold's arrives at the scene, he fears the worst.
Oh, Lord.
But the situation isn't what he was expecting.
Put the gun down. Put the gun down on the floor.
Gary attacked me. Forgive me, Jesus. I didn't mean to do.
Yeah, Betty, it's Arnold's. I'm gonna need backup and ambulance right away. Got a male gunshot victim. Vital signs absent. Roger. Everything's gonna be just fine, Leonie. Why don't you come on down to the station and we'll talk about what just happened?
Jesus might forgive Leone, but the law still has to make up its mind. You don't just say, "It's a shame Gary took 2 in the chest," and go home. You know, a lot of people ask me about the self-defense thing, and if I'm honest, there's no hard and fast rule, because every situation's different. Whatever went down in that kitchen, Leone's still got a lot of explaining to do.
Now, darling, I know you must feel lower than a gopher hole. But why don't you tell me how it all went down?
I was on the phone with you and he just snapped. Oh, God, it was awful.
Leone tells Sheriff Arnold's that she had no choice but to defend herself.
I knew he was gonna kill me. He came at me with a gun, but I managed to get it away. But then it went off.
It went off twice.
The first one was an accident, but it didn't stop him. He had the strength of 10 men. So I fired a second shot.
It's a crying shame. Crying shame.
What happens now?
Well, we're processing the scene. The coroner's got to weigh in. The prosecutor. But from where I sit, you did what you had to do.
Sad to say, but we in law enforcement hear Leone's story all the time. A woman who's forced to defend herself from her violent husband. And around these parts, good luck finding a jury that'll take issue with using a gun to do it. I'm not saying it's a one-horse race, but the chances of Leone doing any time for taking down her delusional husband are pretty slim.
Gary's death is ruled accidental by the coroner, and no charges are laid against Leone.
He was a good man, Bud.
God bless him. He was a good man.
With Gary now laid to rest, Sheriff Arnold's closes the case.
And bless this food, O Lord, so that it may nourish our body and soul. Amen.
I do so love your manly praying voice, dear.
With Gary's generous life insurance policy, Leone starts rebuilding her life.
Now, what was the surprise you said you had for me?
She eventually meets a new man at church, a successful car salesman named Ralph. After a brief courtship, they get married, and Ralph moves into Leone's house.
A sedan! Oh, Ralph, you should have. You're so good to me.
What can I do for you, son?
Well, Sheriff, I'm here about Leone Culpepper.
What about Leone?
The man says his name is Colton. He's a long-haul trucker and an old acquaintance of Leone's.
Back before she settled down, mind you, Sheriff. Let's just say Leone and me, we used to shoot the lights out something fierce, if you get my meaning. But these days, well, I think she's fixing to shoot something else. Or should I say somebody? You still going to church?
Sure am.
Dang, Leone, you're looking hotter than a firecracker.
And you're just as handsome as ever, ain't you, Colty?
What do I owe the pleasure?
Colton claims Leone contacted him recently about some work she needed done, and he'd driven down from Houston to talk it over.
You'll make a lot of money, honey pie. And there may be more than just money in it for you, if you do a good job.
Colton reveals that Leone asked him to kill her second husband, Ralph.
You don't care how exactly. Just that it gets done.
Well, hell's bells, son. That's quite a yarn. How do I know you just ain't yanking my chain?
Because she paid me $5 large up front, sir.
Colton says he had no intentions of killing anyone, but just in case Leone thought he'd turn her in, He pretended to go along with the plan.
I come straight here. She got war paint on, Sheriff. I swear.
Just when you think you know someone, bam. Turns out they're the devil in disguise. A cupcake baking housewife hiring a hitman sounds pretty unlikely. But Arnold's is looking at Leone in a whole different light now, and he's wondering just how accidental Gary's death really was. Looks like the long-closed case of Gary and the man in the mask just got reopened.
When you supposed to see her next?
Matter of fact, I'm supposed to see her this afternoon.
Well, if all this is true, and I ain't saying that it is, then I got a job for you too, boy. You know what a wire is?
To find out if he's telling the truth, Sheriff Arnold's has Colton wear a wire to record his meeting with Leone.
You're good and deputized now. I want you to record everything, you hear?
Yeah, I hear you.
Now, if you're pulling a fast one, I swear, I'll sizzle your bacon.
Throwing some untrained hayseed into a murder-for-hire case seems pretty dumb, right? But it actually happens all the time. Not all confidential informants are pros, and that can be a good thing because when you need your suspect to incriminate themselves, you don't want your CI to have any whiff of the law on them. And you'd be amazed what some crooks will say once they trust you.
I just knew I could count on you, Colty.
While Ralph is at work, Leone and Colton discuss how to best take him out.
Well, shooting him is probably easiest. Just make sure he's dead. The last guy screwed up real bad.
Last guy?
At first, Colton thinks Leone means she tried to take out Ralph once before, but he quickly realizes she's talking about Gary. Leone tells Colton that being married to Gary was like living in a cage, and the only way out was to get rid of him for good. And she'd found the perfect person for the job, somebody no one would suspect. The plan was simple. Give the vagrant a gun, a disguise, and a key to the house, and tell him to make it look like a break-in. But her man botched the job. When the gun jammed and the would-be killer fled, Leone knew she had a problem on her hands.
So now Leone has to stall an attempted murder investigation until she thinks of another way to get Gary out of the picture. You talk about your first world problems. She tries to pin suspicion on the panty phantom, but the guy has an alibi and Gary now has a gun of his own. She can't exactly ask the homeless dude to give it another try. I mean, he's long gone anyhow. So what's a wife who wants her husband dead to do?
He screwed up real bad. So I just had to kill stupid old Gary myself.
Leone's admission on the wire brings Sheriff Arnold's calling with an arrest warrant.
So much for self-defense. But why, Leone? Gary was a good man.
He might have been a good man, but he was a cheap son of a bitch. He'd squeeze a dollar bill till Washington hollered. I wanted more, Bud. Like dinner out more than once a year. But Gary just didn't care. His life was pouring concrete and coaching ball.
Leone says that depending on Gary for money was suffocating her, but divorce was out of the question. She risked being left with nothing. Gary, however, had a life insurance policy worth $250,000.
So you're saying that Gary was worth more dead than he was alive?
That's about the all of it, Bud. Get the sheriff!
Leone tells Sheriff Arnold's that when the homeless hitman failed to kill Gary, she needed a new plan. And Gary's reaction to the assault gave her an idea. Leone spread the word that Gary was becoming increasingly unstable.
I just don't know, Pastor. I got him some sleeping pills, but they just don't work. He's been pacing all night. I've been scared for my safety.
Leone realized that if she took advantage of Gary's fear that someone wanted him dead,
Oh, Lord.
she could lay out the groundwork for a claim of self-defense before killing him herself. So Leone kept the pressure on until Gary was close to snapping.
You're a dead man, Gary. I'm coming for you. Your days are
You're numbered and your soul is mine.
There's an old Ingrid Bergman movie called Gaslight about a guy who tries to convince his wife that she's going insane in order to cover up a murder he'd committed years before. And that's exactly what Leonie does. She gaslights her husband, manipulating his paranoia to make him think there's a killer around every corner. And as an added bonus, if Gary ever figures out it's Leonie all along, he'll have no credibility. In any case, it wouldn't be hard for anyone to believe Gary was capable of attacking Leonie and that she would defend herself accordingly. Even I have to admit it was a brilliant plan.
How does Ralph figure in all this?
Well,
Leonie tells Sheriff Arnolds that when Gary's insurance money started to run out, she started looking around for another husband with a good insurance policy.
besides, Bud, once I got a taste of living by my own rules, I just knew I couldn't go back. At least not for long.
Why didn't you just get a job like regular folk?
Doing what? Cupcakes make you fat, not rich.
So you figured you'd married Ralph and get away with murder a second time, huh?
It worked once. Why not?
You're a real piece of work, Leonie. You had us all fooled, make no mistake. But you're going to prison for life if you're getting a day. And that's something you can hang your apron on. Now stand up.
Leonie's charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy. Sentenced to life without parole, she consoles herself by volunteering in the prison kitchen.
You know, pushing someone over the edge ain't easy, even when they're already halfway there. It takes the kind of planning only a psychopath is capable of. Gary might have been bugging out, but he wasn't crazy. He knew in his bones someone was out to get him. He just didn't realize it was his own wife. Leonie fooled a lot of people, but she couldn't get away with it forever, because here's the thing. You just can't gaslight the law. Sooner or later, we'll see behind the mask, and you'll be behind bars.